Good evening, everyone. We started formally the today session, which is help session in building chatbots. But before proceeding with this, I want that nobody miss the big picture. Even though the specific assignment for these 3 weeks is something very specific, and to start with, we don't expect that this is going to be quite intelligent chatbot, but the big picture, we have a lecture in the classroom, and I want just to point your attention. Think in the big picture today. AI has evolved from big data and machine learning, and in many places, even when in reading, the reference to AI and machine learning is indistinct, using both terms indistinctly. Of course, it's not exactly the same, but the today, what we are talking about today about AI is very practical. Machine learning in to applied artificial intelligence, and it's not to substitute the human. We are talking about computational capability to help us be more productive or having more quality result, or elevate some parameter in the business, and so on and on and on. It's not to substitute. And that is the paradigm shift from big data, machine learning, to what we are talking about, AI. So I still hope to see this in the last week discussion, the big picture, because people is mostly concentrated in the services which IBM has in this direction, which is okay, of course. These are the practical application, but still the big picture is missing. So I hope we are going to be able to do this last week. And with no more, I'm going to give to Elena's presentation to the practical thing you must follow in order to build, let's say, a decent chatbot with the requirement we have for this class. Okay, Elena, go ahead.
So, I mean, I realize it's a lot of slides, but I mean, some of it will be the summary because it's already in a walkthrough, right? So, our agenda is quite ambitious. We'll see how much we can get through. But I need to remind you a few things. Well, I know I'm a broken record, but I just cannot skip this, okay? So you need to make sure that your chatbot is ready 3 days, okay? Your chatbot must be, oh, can you see my screen? Yes, you can. The chatbot must be ready 3 days before assignment is due. And this is what's gonna happen. You have to do an integration with Discovery Service, and you have to set aside for it a day because, well, first of all, it could take one night to build the repository, and then couple students who got this far ran into some issues that require troubleshooting. So please, 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 and then you have to do an experiment. The experiment is going to take 2 days, and you may ask the faculty to participate also. So me and Lanesh, we can test your chatbot too. Okay. Now, you want to make sure your account is active, and please do not put your credit card, okay? Now, don't submit any ticket with IBM. Do not deactivate your account. You have to take the chatbot key concepts quiz, all right? Because this is what we're gonna do now. If you ask for assistance, we're gonna go in and check if you completed the quiz. Because when I try to explain you what you need to do, and perhaps I say the word, please add this entity, right? And if you don't know what an entity is, it sounds like I'm speaking foreign language to you, right? You need to know the vocabulary here. Uh, Now, this is what's happening. The way the chatbot walkthrough is structured is that you have to do everything starting from page 1, and you cannot skip the pages because, well, first of all, sometimes the question says, what do you see right now, right? Sometimes it demonstrates your problem, and the next page it shows you how to fix it. Or sometimes it asks you to create a node, and in the next page, it builds on that. So in other words, the next page is built on what's in this page, right? So what you ask to do on the next page could build on the work done as an exercise. So please don't skip this. It's very important, okay? Now, the chatbot that you develop must be your original work. It means that You're not going to submit Mr. Cold. You're not going to submit Mr. BMI, today's example, right? You will create your own example. So think about something and you want to be familiar with the topic, right? Because I'll explain you why, all right? And so you want to pay attention to deliverables. I assume everybody knows how to count until 2. So that's going to be your paper and also the JSON file. If that file is missing, there's no way to grade the work, right? And, you know, the mistake you can make is not asking for help. You don't want to be stuck on something and you don't learn about it until after the work is due. Right, okay, here I'm a broken record again, but something along this line was posted in the course announcement. This is important terminology, you just must know, okay? Like something in Leo, if I say what discussion, you know what discussion is, right? So every single application you use, there is a set of terminology you have to know, just like this, okay? Now, well, this is just a little preview. What is a chatbot? Chatbot understands your natural language. The whole idea is here, you're going to type something in a natural language, and the chatbot will try to respond. You need to train the chatbot based on the specific rules, so to speak, right? And depending on what you enter, it should be able to respond. Well, not necessarily, because sometimes if you enter something the chatbot was not trained on, you have to have a way to handle that as well, right? Okay, now let's look at this at the big picture behind this assignment. What you will do is you're going to define your application purpose, you're going to define the scenarios, but again, when you start, it's not going to be a final copy yet because you want to start slow and then add to it. You're going to use the Watson Assistant to implement the chatbot. You're going to train it. And you're going to do, first of all, there are different types of training. There's a training while you're developing it, right? A lot of testing. And another reason why I told you to start early, because sometimes when you make a little change, you have to retest the whole scenario, okay? Now, then you're going to integrate with Watson Discovery Service. And I'll tell you why. Because some questions must be answered based on the latest collection of the document. Okay? So some chatbot answers are hard-coded, but the thing is, for example, here, if I want to look at something that has to do with medical recommendations, right? We cannot hard code because the recommendations change at all times. Like now, for instance, we have COVID, right? Things change with COVID. A lot of things have changed, right? So the whole idea is that we want to, when we answer questions, we want to pull the latest and greatest information, right? So you want to develop a connection with a service that's gonna go and crawl the web and pull information from the web, build the index repository, and then your chatbot is going to read from that repository, and I'll show you, okay? Now, there is a conversation log that it tracks. You're going to look at it, and you're going to look at how your chatbot is being used, right? So as part of your experiment, you're going to select several people who are going to test your chatbot, right? You have to do 2 days, and I'll explain later more. Now, and you have to, so you monitor the conversation, then you're going to identify your limitation in the current implementation, right? And then you're going to do some, suggest some enhancements for the future, right? So this is a fun. We have developed this chatbot. It's called Mr. BMI application. So the whole idea is that you don't need to pay anything. It's available 24/7 and it's free. And your information is not stored, it remains confidential. You can basically, you may specify your blood pressure and it's gonna tell you if it's normal, if it's too low, or if it's time to go to the hospital. Then you also can ask the questions such as what is BMI, right? And the information will be pulled, half of the information will be pulled from the documents repository, right? So and also, one thing to note is that if I enter my blood pressure 150/75, and if Linesh enters the same number, we're gonna get consistent result. Maybe we get a different paraphrasing of the same message, but it's not gonna send me to the hospital, right, at this blood pressure, while it does not send anyone else to the hospital with this blood pressure, okay? Now, and the whole idea is that how do we handle new questions, right? A lot of considerations. Here, I got really creative and I made up these conversation scenarios. This is a doctor's office, okay? And this is when the system entities comes in place. I want the chatbot to be like this. I have a doctor's office and I have 3 doctors. I have Mr. Monitor, Miss Stethoscope, and Mr. BMI. And this is their duty hours, okay? So basically the welcome message that I see depends on what time of the day it is right now, right? That's what I want. So I'm gonna give you the code and you may want to try running it at different times. So you will see a different picture in a welcome message, right? So the doctor on duty is gonna welcome, and then there's going to be a menu. Why do you use a menu? Because that way, when the user runs the chatbot, they kind of know the options to choose from, right? Also, then I can just go ahead and click. It's more more user friendly, right? I don't need to second guess what I need to type in there. Okay. Now, well, the way I usually do this part is that I go to the application, and this is a preview, and we'll talk about how to generate this. Now, take a look at this. Do you see this little misoscope? And at the time when I loaded this, it was before 8, right? Was it? Yeah. Well, no. Okay, so it depends on what time. It depends on what time you're running it. My laptop is for some reason I'm in the Eastern time zone, but the laptop is set up on the Western. But anyhow, it was this one. Now I'm gonna see a different doctor on duty. I'm going to do this right now. I'm gonna do restart conversation, and you're gonna see this is a different doctor now, right? So the shift came. Now here it is. It says, good evening, I'm Mr. BMI, right? So this is how it starts. Select an option. And each of these option in sort of kind of this scenario. What can I do in here? Let's see. I'm going to do estimate BMI, right? So if I do estimate BMI, this is, so some of you asked about scenarios. See, look at this. This is one of the scenarios. I select an option, estimate BMI. Here, it's asking me for a height in inches. Note, 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 write it down. The chatbot does not handle other metric units. It handles only inches. So this is what I have to state in my assumptions, right? For the future enhancement, perhaps allow the chatbot handle other metric units, right? So I've got my feature enhancement right here. All right, so I'm gonna put the height in inches, right? Now it's reading, and it says how many pounds do you weigh? And I'm gonna put my weight. Now it's gonna sync a little bit and it's gonna give me my BMI, healthy weight. So this was the sunny day scenario, right? It was a sunny day scenario for estimate BMI, right? So now what you could do is this. I'm gonna restart the conversation and I'll show you something else. Okay, I restarted the conversation. Watch what's gonna happen right now. I'm gonna do the estimate BMI again, right? And what is your height in inches? I'm gonna type this. Is it gonna work? I think it's gonna recognize it, right? However, if I put here, right, it's gonna ask me to re-enter. See this? Because it does not recognize this is not a number, right? So then I have to do that. I did this, and you see now it's gonna be the same. It's gonna be consistent answer, right? So this is one of the scenarios, right? So I'm gonna go restart the conversation now. Take a look at it. What else I could do in here? Let's select another option. And see here, now I want to know what is perhaps, what is blood pressure? I want to know the definition of the blood pressure. Watch what's going to happen right now. Watch. It's going to be a few things in here. Okay, here it comes. Number one, see this is a text that was hard-coded, right? This is an image, blood pressure chart. And what are those guys over here? What are these guys? Yes, it's calling what? The discovery service. This is pulling from the articles that were indexed, right? So I've got 3 here, and I can display more. There are some settings you may specify how many to display, okay? So here it is, and this link's applicable. I can click and it's gonna take me to WebMD article. Because when I build my repository, I put WebMD site as an input. You want to pick the site that is very rich with documents on your topic, okay? So that's the reason why I suggested that you get comfortable, pick something you're comfortable with. And now what else I did here, look, in this scenario, it's implemented. It lets you still select another option, what you can do next, right? Here, if I choose email me the information, right? And you're gonna have a copy of this code. Here, I'm reading the email from the input, right? I'm gonna put, for example, my personal email because it's less typing, right? And it's gonna read my email. Well, it's not actually going to send anything, but it just says that it sent an email, right? And I should always be able to exit, right? So if I type exit, it's gonna show me a message. But here, what I'm doing is this. Is this? How does it know that it's Monday? Because I'm doing something with the system entities in my system. I'm doing something where I'm reading today's date, right? So here we go. It gives you an idea how you can use system entities. So you've got what? You've got user entities, right? The entities that you create and a system. Now, to clarify, for some people need clarification on difference between intent and entity. Intent is something that you want to do. Like, for example, you want to turn something on, right? That's an intent to turn something on. Entity is going to be what you want to turn on, such as TV, radio, air conditioning, something like that. That's going to be an entity, right? And action is an intent, okay? So please remember that when you develop your chatbot, remember that, okay? So now we're going to dive into the details of this. And I showed you some of it, but I'll let you explore more at your leisure. So I'm going to give you the JSON file, and you can add this as a JSON file, okay? Because in this here, when you launch the service, when you launch Watson Assistant service, there is an option to add a skill from the JSON file. You just import it. I'll show you. Okay, let's go back. So here there is a lot of information, but what I did was I summarized it for you. That's how I do it. When I look into something, when I'm doing something, I'm taking notes, right? And then I'm let you have these notes. That's why we have the detailed slides. Okay. So here I'll let you explore on your own. But another thing is that whenever it's asked, when I entered invalid value that is not a number, when I enter something that is not a number, it's gonna ask me to re-enter. But here I could be stuck in a loop, right? I have to have a way to break the conversation somehow. Perhaps I could type goodbye and it should let me exit, right? Or I could say this, if I asked you 3 times and you have not responded, that we can exit, right? So something to think about it. I believe I'm letting to say goodbye, right? I implemented where you can exit, right? So you don't want to be going like this 20 times stuck in a loop, right? Maybe the person is uncomfortable to talk about the weight, perhaps, right? Now, and the same thing for the blood pressure. It's looking at the numbers entered, and depending on what you have entered, it's gonna give you the response, conditional response, right? So, and this is just the conversation scenarios explained, but I did not put a screenshot of the articles here. I believe I did not. That's okay. Uh, and email me the information. Well, here it's using what's called regular expression pattern entity to pick up the email from the input. Okay, we'll look at the technical details, but first, well, I decided it's easier to start presenting with the big picture and then diving into the technical. Okay, so here, this is a different goodbye message. And then if it's a weekend, it's gonna say have a nice weekend. So how do I know this stuff? There is a system entity date, and I can extract the day of the week, right? And I can extract the time and etc. you saw how it was showing a different picture. I launched the chatbot before this walkthrough intentionally so that I could show you the different image, right? You can do that. Well, this is a diagram. This is how yours is gonna be look like. But you could use Draw.io, but you could also use the Visio. Use Visio, and you have access to it. Because as a student, you get a free download of the Microsoft Office and also Visio. It's a separate download, but you can get it for free. And if you need details, I'll give you later. Let me know, because you get free. You may download to one PC for free, right? As a student. Now, this is the search. Oh, this is a skill, right? I'm just spelling out how to the steps. But what I was telling that, look, in some readings it's called a skill. In some readings it's called the workspace, because they keep on changing the terminology. They keep on changing the labels. So sometimes I would like to just tell you this and this means the same thing, you know. Okay, so workspace, if you see workspace, is the same thing as a skill. Now I need to show you what you're gonna do to submit. So we were in the preview. I'm gonna exit the preview and I'm gonna go to my skills, and this is what you're gonna do to submit. You're gonna go to your skill, right, which is Mr. BMI Health Center. And this is what I'm going to do after this meeting. I'm gonna go in here and I'm gonna go to the download. And when you do that, you're going to download the file in a JSON format, right? You're gonna submit it. Then when your instructor grades the assignment, he or she is going to take your file, import into the Watson Assistant and check, right? Check the implementation. That's how it is. When you take the course where you develop something, they always validate your code, right? And same thing, Kaggle competition, right? Lanesh will be validating your code. So that's how that works, right? So you have to submit the JSON file and also include the link, because look, here, this is an assistant, right? The assistant has two skills. It has the dialogue skills and a search skill, right? And this is the preview link. So what you would do is, see this over here, it's a share link. This is a link, write it down, note it down. This is a link that you're going to include in your paper, and this is a link that you're gonna send your friends to test. Your friends or your family members, anyone, right? Well, the more people you get to test, the better it is. And because of the synonyms, different ways to say things, you know. Okay, so here is the link that you're going to share. Just remember that. And they will just do this. They're gonna put it in a browser tab, and they're gonna paste it in a browser tab, and that's it. Then that's a Watson Assistant. Okay, so ask them to run several conversations, and then you're gonna look at the conversation logs, right? You're gonna look at the conversation logs. Now, I need to ask you to do yourself a favor. Pay close attention to which skills you're creating. We are not using the action skill. We are using the dialogue skill, right? That's where you build the structure of your dialogue. And you also using the search skill. The search skill, it's a, so to speak, a bridge between the documents, right? What discovery service, where you build a repository, right? And this is like it gets from your dashboard, from your dialogue, you call in the search skill, and the search skill in turn goes to the service and pulls documents from a repository, right? So let's see. We're gonna get to it now. And you saw the entities, right? You see what intent is, but I only need to show you the email entity, because this is slightly different from what you have seen in the assignment. So here are my skills. It's this one, Mr. BMI. health center. And if you look at these entities, I have a different, this entity is a little bit unusual because what I'm doing here is pattern. See the type, there are different entity types, right? See this, you got the synonyms and you got the pattern. And pattern may have more than one values. For example, if I was doing a phone number, you have local phone number and international phone number, right? You could have two values. But what here, instead of the actual words, so to speak, right? Instead of actual values, or how do you say, instead of values in English sentences, here, this is a regular expression, pattern match. And I picked it up, I took it from the documentation, right? So you would take this pattern and you're gonna try to read that from the user input, right? So that's an email. This is the entity. And then in here, if I go back to the intent, if I go back to my intent, I have an intent to email me the information, right? So here, I have intents such as explain the blood pressure. I want to estimate the BMI. I want to email, right? Then I want to, well, actually the intent name is explain. The intent name is explain, right? But what I want to explain, it's gonna be an entity, right? And a goodbye, it exits the conversation. But if you look at the dialogue, important, you have to have the first note is going to have to be the welcome note. Last note has to be the anything else note, right? Welcome note is what gets executed when you start running the chatbot, right? When I started, what happened when I started? And in here, well, it showed this message is here, right? It went through here. Welcome is a condition, right? Uh, it's a node entry condition, and this is a predefined condition. It recognizes welcome, it means the chatbot was started. Now here I have the conditional responses, right? And well, see this now. What is now? This is a system entity. It's checking if right now is before 10, then this is a response. If right now is this, then this is a response. Anything else basically will pick up the time that's not before 10 and it not, well, basically, see this, that's what I did. I specified sometimes, right? If it's before 10, it goes midnight through 10 in the morning. And here goes, you have another interval from 10 a.m. to 5, right? And then anything else is gonna be after 5, right? Depending on how your laptop is set up, okay? Now, here, this is a respond with. How did I configure each response? You need to click on the gear, and here you're gonna see more. See this configure response one, right? Response one, this is what happens if it's now before 10 a.m. And I have several response types in here, right? I have text, right? And this is what I mean by response variation. You want to paraphrase. So if I run the chatbot again, it's not gonna be like a parrot repeating itself. You want to see some changes in wording, and then I've got an image, okay? So this is a welcome, and then this is a child node, right? And child node entry condition is set to true. It means that after it does this part, right? And I'll let you explore the other two at your leisure. But once it does this part, it's going to go to here, right? Because I did not specify where to go, right? I did not specify. Well, I say jump to, and jump to here, okay? I says jump to, and that's what it's doing, okay? Now let's see. Why jump to main after the welcome node? Does it go to the main? Yes, I think it should go to the main, that's right. But another thing is yes, it should go to the main, that's right. I think you're right, Michael, yes. But I was, well, how to say, sometimes when you are developing it, you get things not working as expected. So you go in and change, you try things and you forget to remove. but that's a good catch. Well, it should work either way. Yes, it should work either way, but it was an excellent catch, right? So it went to that node, and then it yeah, this is gonna be this it's printing this menu. Now let's take a look. What is this menu? Remember option response type? Value is actually the intent that gets fired when you choose that option. It's an intent that gets fired when you choose that option. Okay. Uh, like for example, if I do estimate BMI, well, if I selecting the estimate BMI option from the menu is equivalent to typing BMI. Okay, this is equivalent. So when if I type this, right, if I type blood pressure, right, it's the same thing is going to happen as if I select this option from the menu. And you remember it if you might be familiar with HTML, something similar. We have each option has a label. Label is what the user sees, and value is what's happening behind the scene, right? Behind the scene. If your welcome note is deleted, how do you recreate it? No, that's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. You would just add a new node, right? And you're gonna add the entry condition welcome, right? That's one way. You could do add node, and then you want to remember that your entry condition is welcome, right? Or you could also create a new skill and see how it's set up. Well, in welcome node, you're always gonna have the welcome entry condition. That's what mainly is. All right. And oh, here this is also when you do the jump to, you can jump to the entry condition to the condition of the node, right? Where it's checking if the condition is true, or you can bypass the condition of the node that you jump to. You can go straight to response. So yeah, we had one of the couple people ask questions in the ticket, right? And well, there is something in here. Trust me, this is gonna get some time to get this. How to read the email. So here, this is the syntax. You want to check for this is called the slot. So slot allows you to gather information, and it stores the information where in the in a variable, right? So when you actually working on this on development, when you're in development stage, you're gonna use try it window. Now you're not gonna use try it window to check the search skill. You cannot, but you can check the dialog here. So let's see. Look at this. I click on the trial and let's see what's gonna happen. I do email me the information, right? But wait a minute. As soon as I launch this chatbot, right? I get something saved in here. When I click on manage context, those are my variables. So what I'm doing is this somewhere in my chatbot, I am storing what date of the week it is, right? And this is attempt, I believe somewhere I have this logic to cut it off after a certain number of attempts. So if I ask a question and you still did not give me the satisfactory answer, I might ask you like 3 times, not more than 5 times, and then it will exit, right? I don't want to keep on asking you for, I don't want to keep on asking you forever, right? It's like beating the dead horse, so to speak. Okay, so here, look, right now I don't have the variable called email, right? So now what I'll do is when I enter my email here, right? When I enter my email, okay, I'm gonna do enter. Now what happened is that it added another context variable and it stored my email in that context variable. As you are testing, while you're in the testing stage, you may find it's really helpful to go slowly and you want to check what's actually stored in the variable. Because sometimes you think, oh, I expect this, but it did that. Then you want to check what you actually store. And if it's a context, it's going to be like here, right? You can check it here. All right. So that's the main difference between testing here versus doing the preview. Another thing is that if you test it in the try it window, the conversation is not going to be written in a conversation log, right? So you cannot gather statistics by doing this from a try it window. You have to do it from the preview link only. Okay, so that's just the difference. Okay, and I know some of you may think I've been talking about things in random order. Well, no, but well, okay. See, some of the slides are the notes. I kind of like took notes what I was doing when I developed this. I initially had a lot of my entities, a lot of the synonyms in an Excel file, and I imported the file just to avoid a lot of repetitive typing, so to speak, right? And here, this is a summary. I think you have an ungraded question about the difference between my entities and system entities. So just remember this. You have entities that you defined, right? They're editable and you cannot train. But whatever comes with the system, this is not editable, okay? And also you need to turn them on and off, right? You have to turn them on and off, whether you use them or not. Well, I just spelled out, I'm not gonna go over this stuff because I have to make an assumption that all of you are excellent students. You've done your homework, you've read all of this. And again, this is also the must know terminology, but I have to put in a nice summary for you. Maybe that will help, right? It just tells you where things are in the big picture, right? And response type, I would have to add also the search over here. Text, option, pause, image, and also the search. That's where you call the search skill, right? Okay, so here, this is just an explanation of what's done in there, okay? And I talked about it, but you also have the slide for this. And this one is a blood pressure configuration, right? Oh, this is explained blood pressure. Sorry, so let's go ahead and check that because here this is what I'm calling the search skill. But first of all, what is that? I have a folder, right? So if I have sort of like a set of nodes that are doing not the same thing but something related, right? I could put them in a folder. It's just nice way to collapse the set of nodes, right? And you can also define the entry condition at the folder level. But if you take a look at this, I've got two nodes in this folder, right? This one, if you ask to explain what BMI is, and another one if you ask to explain what blood pressure is. But let's look at what this is doing. Well, if I mentioned there are several parts of this. This is a text, right? Here it's looking at the image, and this is where I'm calling the search skill. Search skill is part of your assistant, right? When you add an assistant, you add the dialog skill, sorry, and then you add the search skill, right? So it knows exactly which search skill to call, and this is just the query. Query is basically what you want to look for. All right, and this is, I was just playing around and I found that when I put this, it just gave me better results, okay? Because I want to make sure that my results are more or less relevant. If I want to know about the body mass index, right, I don't want to see something like about depression, something that's unrelated to this, right? So basically that's where it's calling the search skill, right? And you have to make sure that your search skill is added to the assistant, right? Here is assistant. You have to add both skills, right? Here dialog, and this is a search skill. And you click in here in the search skill, it's connected to the document repository, right? Oh, well, here, this is where the setting is to show the top 3 results, right? So another setting, but it's somewhere in the discovery service. If I have a web page, right? So the web page has a link to another web page, and another web page has a link to another web page. There is a setting on how far you want to traverse. but this is going to be somewhere in the discovery service, right? So how far do you want to keep going with the links, right? And also the site that you use to build the repository is going to be different, because you're going to be looking at something that has information for your chatbot. Like one of you was doing the car data, something like that. So you would need a site where there is an explanation about perhaps different car parts, or maybe something on car owners manuals. And you can specify more than one site, but there is a limit. You're limited. I don't remember exact number, maybe up to 1,000 articles, but that's plenty. Trust me, this is more than plenty for assignment. Okay, now I'm gonna go back, and if I sound a little bit like a foreign language, I mean, if you have not had the chance to get this far in the readings, I would strongly recommend, and in fact, I do recommend that you watch this recording again, okay? Because it's a lot of stuff thrown at you, and I understand that. Okay, so and this is just showing you different response types, right? You have to have a different response type in your assignment submission. You have a text, you're gonna have an image, but again, you cannot copy and paste the image directly. You have to specify the URL of an image, right? And it's gonna be either JPG or PNG, something like that. And if you're doing a walkthrough, if for unknown reason the link to an image is not working, just pick another image. It does not matter for the walkthrough, okay? Because those guys, those Mr. Cold guys, the images have been changing URLs all the time. So you can pick another doctor's picture. It does not matter. Okay. Now, this is just an explanation on how option response type work. But for me, it's similar to the drop down, in HTML, right? You have a label and you have the value, and value is gonna be the intent that's getting called here, okay? It's equivalent to what I'll see if I type this in a input, okay? Now, this is about the blood pressure, right? And I've got the well, in the node itself, there's a conditional response, and I'll let you play with it. It's gonna check both readings, and if both readings are to the point that you need to go to the hospital, the application is gonna exit. That's how I set it up. Like if your blood pressure is really, really, really bad, like if your upper reading is 180, right, or if a lower reading is above 120, you have to go to the hospital. It's like, that's it, conversation is done, go. Yeah. So, and I talked about that. Oh, I have not talked about this. This one, what I'm doing is that this is how I get the date of the week, new, reformat type. This is just the syntax, okay? So this is gonna get you the date. So I believe somewhere when in almost like in the welcome note, or when I'm getting the it's in the beginning of the conversation, I'm just getting the date and storing it in a context variable. And again, a lot of those things could have been done in more than one way, okay? Here I have 5 letters E. It means that I want to spell the day in full. If I want to do the day abbreviation, that's probably going to be 3E, triple E. And all of this is in IBM Cloud documentation. There are a lot of functions with date that you can borrow. Feel free, because borrowing functions is not cheating. This is a code reuse. What's cheating is that when you take the whole code, or when you write papers, copy paste from the web, or submitting someone else's papers, this is cheating. But reusing those little snippets of code, right, in light of your chatbot, this is fine. Okay, now this is just a goodbye note. It has conditional response too. Depending on the day of the week, right, it's gonna give you the different response. And how does it show the date? This is showing you the value of what's in that variable. So where it is? here, this is the dialog. And if I go back to my dialog, it's in a goodbye note, right? Well, it's in here. This is how you read the context variable, right? Date, and then if I check here, if the date is Saturday or if the date is Sunday, so this is the response, right? Otherwise, do this and do what? Otherwise, I want to do this. Thank you for using BMI application. Have a nice. And do you see this $ day? Well, $, it means that it's calling the context variable. Whatever is stored in the day will be outputted here, right? And also, when you define the context variable, there is more than one way to do that. In a walkthrough, you are asked to use the JSON editor, right? Which is good, but you can also use, there is a actual view context. In addition to view JSON editor, you can see the contents and add explicitly. And now for the slot, you have to enable them, right? So slots, what is slot? It allows you to collect user input, right? And multiple conditional responses, you need to turn it on, okay? Do not worry about the webhooks, please. We're not using this in this class, okay? Please don't do that. And you don't need to worry about that too. Don't worry about the discretion. But what I want you to use, I would like you to see using handles. Because like, for example, suppose that you're trying to ask me about the systolic blood pressure and I don't know what the systolic blood pressure is. So I want to interrupt your questioning for a second and I want to ask your question before you can continue with asking me questions, right? So here, this is when the handler comes in place. So you're gonna ask to explain what the systolic blood pressure is, and then the flow is going back to collecting information from me, right? Like for example, you could ask something like, Elena, what is your waist circumference, right? Circumference, and suppose that I'm lost, I don't know what it is, right? Then I'm gonna see an explanation, and after that, it's gonna go back in the conversation where I was. So you are switching topics, but you're getting back to where you switched from, right? That's what handlers are gonna do, right? So just remember that the slot, it has a handler, right? And usually that's a good idea to put those handlers where you're collecting data from users. And as a customer myself, I should be able to exit the conversation at any time, right? Or like here, this is estimate BMI. I have two handlers in here. And if you say goodbye, I want to be able to then I'm gonna ask, oh, okay, sounds like you want to quit. Yes, that's it, goodbye. And here, uh, this is what I was recently talking about. You ask me a question and I'm not sure what you're asking me. Then the conversation will slightly temporarily shift where the handler, right, is gonna be a message. It will explain me, it will answer my question, right? And then it comes back, then it comes back to my court, right? So that's basically I should be able to jump in, jump out, right? Or something like this. Suppose that I'm doing a registration. You'll be doing the registration soon for a summer. And suddenly, while you're registering, you say, wait a minute, when does the class start? So see this, you are getting a little bit off track and then you're coming back, right? That's what a handler is. It does not necessarily exit the conversation unless you specify it to exit. It just tells you something, small actions that you want to do, right? It's just something small. You could use it to exit, or you could also use it to answer quick questions, clarifications, right? Okay, and so basically remember this, how the nodes are checked from top down, right? And it's gonna go one at a time, and it's gonna check if the entry condition is true or if the intent is in the user input. Um, So it's gonna keep going, and when it reaches the end, right? It's gonna show whatever you specify in anything else. Anything else means none of the above, right? So this is like more likely this is gonna catch when you're asking a question that the chatbot cannot handle, right? Like for example, I cannot ask this chatbot about shoulder joint, perhaps, right? Because I'm not sure if it was trained on this, right? Maybe, who knows? But I mean, I want to, here this is a way to handle unexpected input. You are asked to discuss how you handle the unexpected input, right? Anything else is one way, and then you have some, so to speak, backup values, right? Like I did. If it's this time, then do number one. If it's that time, do number two. Otherwise, do both, right? Okay, so let's go back here. Oh, another thing is that here I'm reading the entities, right? I'm using the system entities to read those numbers from the input, right? And this is a calculation. This is just the syntax. The syntax is a little bit tricky, right? So here, well, I know that I need to take the weight and I need to divide it. See this? I have to, okay, let me see. I'm gonna click here just to see more. And if assisted recognizes this, see, this is a response. It's a wait time 703 divided by the height squared. That's what it is. It's just a formula, right? And you're doing the calculation here, the discard changes. So see that you're doing the calculation. And in here, this is even more. Now, it maybe it looks like it, but this is not the list, right? This is not the options list. This is just how that looks like for the response, right? Responses. Okay, now, and this is called the conditional response because the response could be different depending on text of the message, depending on what was put in the input, right? And you've got the goodbye. But somewhere in the welcome note, I was reading, oh, this is how you can find out. Look, you go to try it, you go clear. Now, this loaded. Immediately when this loaded, I have some of this available, right? And I want to check when, uh, see this, you have to check here in the context variables panel, you can see the values, the current values of the context variables that you create, right? And how does it get created? When you read the information, right? When you read the information from the input, right? It gets stored in the context variable. And anytime when you're testing the conversation, trust me, you want to look at here what the values are, all right? You don't need to write the code to look at it, but you can just click here and see. That way you understand that it's doing, if it's doing or not doing what you expect, right? So let's go back. I mean, a lot of it is just notes that you could, it's something for you to refer to. When you explore this chatbot at your leisure, you have this slide so that it kind of like a description of what you see. But please, please, when you write your paper, do not copy and paste this. Trust me, do not copy and paste this because that's not the original work, If the instructors see Mr. Cold in there, or if they see Mr. BMI in there, they're going to go to Salesforce, submit a ticket to add me and Lanesh to the gradebook, right? Because if it's our work, then we get the points, right? That's how that works, guys. Now, well, this is basically, I'm testing it in a tried window, but the thing is that the tried window, I call it rather developer testing because it's showing you here what entity is identified in an input. It's not going to show you this information in the preview link, right? The preview link that I showed you when we started the session, it's more user friendly, but this is more developer level of testing, right? So when I do this, when I do estimate BMI, here it's showing me which intent it found it in my input and which entity it found in my input. See that? I don't get this information in a preview because again, that's a customer facing. And this is the development, internal development environment, okay? Now let's see. Okay, and this is just the test. It's showing you that I tested the scenarios and I'm showing you what is being read and stored, you know. Well, again, as I said, the purpose of having this many slides is that it's for you. It's like what I was doing, what I was thinking when this chatbot was developed, and then when you play with it at your leisure, you have this description to refer to. That's why it's a big slide deck. And this is talking about the integration. Yes, you have to create the search skills to interact with Watson Discovery service. And there are instructions in the classroom on how to create this service. I'm not creating it during this demo because it's going to take the whole night to build the repository. It might take the whole night. It depends on the sources that you specify, right? But you still want to specify enough. I don't want to see just 3 documents, perhaps. I mean, 3 documents in the repository. That's not what I want, right? Okay, and this is a search skill. We talked about that, didn't we? Well, and this is where the search skill is triggered. It's a response type, right? And then it's gonna call the search skill that is in the same assistant, right? It's connected through assistant, I would say. Okay. And this is just what you need to do is you have to create new assistant, right? So you know where that is, right? Okay, you're gonna go to here. This is assistant page and you're gonna click on create new, okay? This is what you will do. Then you're gonna add your discovery skill. I mean, you're gonna add your dialogue skill, sorry, and you're gonna add your search skill, okay? And try to use the descriptive names. Try to use a descriptive name. Now, what you're gonna do is, I'm gonna give you the code for this, and you do this. You're gonna go here, right? And you're gonna do, well, now it's gonna yell at me because I already have 5 skills, and 5 is the limit. Not sure where I got the other ones, but well, anyhow, what you're gonna do is this, you're gonna do create skill, then you're gonna do this. Uh, you're gonna select the dialogue skill, next, and here, well, it's asking you if you want to do it from here. You're gonna select upload skill. This is what you're gonna do. When I give you the file from tonight's session, you're gonna do this upload skill, and then you can drag and drop the file. Now, uh, you will be able to test the chatbot, but if you just import your file, you won't be able to test the search skill. So this is what I will need to do this. And I'm gonna email the instructors the preview link. I'm gonna email the instructors the preview link. I'm gonna give them the JSON file, right? And I'm also going to give the slides. And this information will be posted with the recording, right? The preview link, the link that I show you to share, right? Okay, so let's see what else we have. And this is about adding a dialogue skill, right? And again, the buttons could look slightly different. Like you see what I'm talking about, the color codes. This is not the change that requires updating the document. Okay, the button shape, the colors, this is not the change that requires updates. All right. Well, here just showing you that you need to add the search skill and etc. Right? Now, I don't want you guys to be confused. Yes, you have IBM Cloud account subscription for 6 months. Yes, but this is IBM Cloud account. You also have a bunch of different services, and each service has its own policies, its own rules, so to speak, right? In this case, Watson Assistant, they give you 30 days for the plan version that we're doing right now. But when 30 days elapse, you will be able to renew. You will be able to renew. Then when another 30 days elapse, you won't be able to renew that instance of the service. But what you could do, export your files and add another service, okay? So don't be scared about the 30 days thing. If you want to play around with your chatbot after this course ends, right? If you want to learn more, well, you could extend this trial for another 30 days if it gives you an option, or you just create another account, right? Well, something like that. Oh, well, not another account, I'm sorry, another instance of the service. Well, what I'm not sure is that I'm not sure if the student account may have two instances of the service. This is what I'm not sure, but the faculty account may, okay? And you're limited to 10 services at a time as a student, okay? Just remember that. And well, here, oops, oh yeah, what is this is the information, those are the references on how to work with the dates. There are some date functions, like you can extract the week, day, and etc., right? Oh, and I never showed you what's actually in that discovery third skill monster. Sorry, this was a, oh, what? Oh, I'll tell you what's going on. I had several Watson assistants. So anyhow, let's see. I'm gonna do this one. Lunch wants an assistant again. And I'll show you, like here, if I go to my skills, this is a search skill, right? Well, here, what this shows me the discovery service that I'm connected on, right? And this is a collection ID in a discovery service. So here, if I click on this arrow, I'm gonna open my discovery service right now. And I'm gonna show you something in here. This is not in the slides, but what is this? This is my collection. I have 991. I have some documents that fails, but I don't care because I have enough documents to look at, okay? Well, maybe sometimes document requires password. It could be password protected, it could be numerous reasons. Another thing is that you can set how often you want to refresh the data, right? Yes, things like that. How often this? It looks like it's always running, right? But you can set, for instance, you can set the new email. Oops, sorry, not new email, but you can change the search. Sorry, what I was saying, you can search the search settings. See this? If you go to search settings, you can add the synonyms, right? So for instance, if you search results and not returning enough, you can add the synonyms in here sometimes. Or here, there's an option to add the stop words from assignment 3. Remember the stop words, right? Such as N, A, Z, and also maybe user-defined stop words, right? Okay, so here, but you can ignore this because you have enough to work with, okay? There's some conversion error. Okay, we're not looking at this. Yeah, but okay. Now, so this is what we see here. This is a discovery service, right? This is where it's built in the repository, and those are just the three environments that it's using. Jesus, FDA, US. Oh, that's an entity extraction. Jesus. And if I click, well, it won't let me click to see the details. Oh, that's a concept tagging, sorry. This is a concept, and I believe it's number of articles where this is covered. Okay, so and the category of this data is health and fitness and disease, right? This is what the category is. And you can just practice running your queries here. Now we are gonna go back to that. I have to show you about those metrics. What are you doing? What are we doing? Okay, I remember it was this one, trial. Because okay, so that's what it is. Now, if I go back, now I have to go back to the skills, right? And I'm gonna go to this is my Mr. BMI Health Center. If I go to this skill here, do you see this? This is analytics. Here I can analyze my conversations. And you're asked, you have to do 2 days. You have to show the how things went, sort of like number of conversations and etc. You doing it first. You ask your participants to run the chatbot. After that, you're gonna go in and you collect the metrics, right? And interpret the metrics. You can make some adjustments in your dialogue, perhaps changing entity classification, right? And then on the next day, you ask some people to run again. Because see here, if I click on user conversations, I can see the details. See this? Well, this is what I was doing. I was doing this a few minutes ago, right? If I go open conversation, this is what the conversation was. This is what happened, right? You're not asked to memorize the conversation itself. No, 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 no. But you just focus on concepts, right? That's the thing. So those are the conversations. There we go, right? And then if, for example, in here, in my conversations, the intent goodbye was recognized. If the goodbye intent was incorrect, I could click on a pencil mark and I could change the intent, right? Or I could also rename the goodbye to whatever I want this to be, right? So, and well, what you want to look at this, you want to check how often each entity is being used. It might give you some ideas about the chatbot utilization, right? Doesn't it? It does, yeah. So, we have not looked into the auto learning. That's something totally new. But for you, just look at this overview and look at this user conversations, okay? And also look at what you can do in the discovery service eventually to kind of like improve, right? Is there anything that you can do to improve the relevancy of the return results, perhaps, right? Okay, so we are not using versions, but in general, if you have sort of like a working version of the chatbot, you can back it up sometimes. Another option to just download the JSON files that you can always re-import. Okay. Oh, well, something else that I noticed that when I added the new skill, search skill, there was a link to some videos that I could watch. So if people learn differently, right? Maybe that works for some of you more, where you go in and just watch this. Like when I do creates, I guess when I do the search skill, see this when I select the search skill, there is a little video that shows here on how to do this. Well, it might not show it in light of what we are doing here, right? It may or may not show in light what we are doing for assignment, but it's just general education on how to create this skill, okay? So once in a while, you're gonna see those little links to education part, okay? Uh, well, I wanted to make sure that you are aware of these functionalities, right? Whether you use it or not, it's up to you, but I'm just showing you that there are videos in here. And also some links to videos are embedded in the documentation, IBM Cloud documentation. So what I did was, I believe it's either light slide or sync to light. Yes, I put these links, documentation links. Those are the documentation inside the IBM Cloud. And I realize, and some of you might be asking me why this is not in the content. Well, because this is just specific. This is a tip, okay? This is not the main content, but this is a tip. This is how you do dates. This is how you do this. It's a rather, what do you call it? Most like a technical details, right? Those readings, it's a documentation. It's not a required reading, but the difference is that it's a troubleshooting technical details. So yes, you would still look through it, you still read and watch, but it's a matter of just how troubleshoot. Yeah. Okay, and this one will help you a little bit with the troubleshooting the search skill. All right. Another thing that I noticed and this is, it could be the coincidence, but could be not. But when I take that link to my chatbot, right, and I believe I still have it in the buffer. See this? This is the link that I would have sent, and notice this behavior. If I do something like this, earlier today, when I did something like this, it gave me a bunch of articles on acne. See that? See how strange it is? For some reason, if I did not specify any of the intents, it just does this. It's something new. It's totally, well, something that I have not seen before. Instead of actually going to anything else, it went to the node, right? And see this? It's actually extracting me the information, right? And just to make sure that I'm not somehow making it up, right? Well, we can type something else, right? Like, well, I need to think. You can type something like flu, right? And then you search, and they're gonna give you articles on that topic too. Oh, now it did not find anything. It's because I misspelled. So if we did not find anything on my topic, then it's gonna say that it searched the knowledge base and did not find it, right? Let me put this called. It's just gonna find now something. Okay. So I guess what gets returned also depends on what you specify, on how you search. Okay. Well, just remember this, right? I know that I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you, but well, if you worked with me in the earlier coursework, you remember that the way this works is that any demos that I do, they need to be watched more than once. When you watched it again, you may want to kind of like, you can watch certain segments twice, certain segments skip, but another thing that I just thought of, so that you all see the clock on my PC, right? When I explain something that's kind of like sounds difficult for you, you could write down the time on my clock, because later the recording is gonna have this clock, right? So you can go back to the time of the recording. Well, not yes, because the recording is gonna show this clock, right? So whenever I explain something and you think this is gonna be, oh, this is critical for assignment, you can note this time here. And then when you go back to watch the recording, yeah, that's one way to identify the spot in a video. Okay, so that was what, trade secret. Okay, now, and again, if some of the, well, the pictures that I use here, they work. But if Mr. Call Chatbot, if any of the pictures are not working, just take a picture of another doctor. No, it's fine, no problem. Okay, the whole idea is how to use the picture. That's all. Now I'm gonna ask people to talk. Questions? Oh, questions. Let me see. Yes, 30 might miss it. Where is, oh, the conversation analytic. No, no, no. I need to show you. I need to make sure that everyone gets this. So I promised myself that I'm not gonna end this session without making sure that everybody knows where to get your analytics. So now here it is. This is the Mr. BMI Health Center, right? I'm gonna go in here. Now you see this, you have intents, entities, dialogue, options, keep options, and this is analytics. Now I'm gonna tell you that honestly, the screenshot you have is gonna be different because we did not have the outer learning option. It's new, it was not there. Okay, so you're gonna see overview and user conversations only. Over here, you specify the time, right? So you probably want to specify the couple days. You specify the time here. So you want to specify day one, day two. And here I get the total number of conversation, average message size, etc. Now, oh, here it is. This is the plot, right? And it shows the conversations breakdown, right? And this is new too. Oh, okay. This is new. This plot was not there before. I believe this is covered messages. It means the message that the chatbot displayed, percentage of chatbot messages that were actually displayed, and this probably is a percentage of messages in implementations that have not been. That's my understanding. But you can also click on I and do a little bit of reading if you need to. Uh, Here, well, this is a plot here too, right? Oh, not sure why it's showing old stuff. Not sure, but anyways, here this is what it is. It's showing me, and I did not do any much last week. Well, I did, but just like maybe a few days to get the to show you the statistics, and also this is important because it tells me how my customers are using my chatbot, which intent are they actually using, right? Like for example, if I had some intent that nobody is using, I would probably not want to maintain much as part of the chatbot, right? You want to make sure that the chatbot is useful and based and it does what people expect it to do, right? Oh, and here those are the system entities. So I mentioned what you have to do. This is entities, my entities, and here are the system entities. And you want to turn on the ones that you're gonna use. Do not turn on what you're not going to use. Do turn on what you're going to use. Okay? And remember, my entities they cannot be exported, right? I'm sorry, system entities cannot be exported. My entities can, right? So questions. Or I'm going to start asking questions. Question one, how many days before assignment ends do you need to have the chatbot ready? Who was paying undivided attention? Who was paying? 3 days. Yay, excellent. So everybody was paying attention. Everybody gets an A plus on participation tonight. Okay, so excellent. At least 3 days. Because you have to have the discovery service working and because you have to do the experiment. Now, if you guys took the class this semester, last semester, unfortunately, you would have to implement the service all over. Or if you're lucky, you might be able to open the service from last semester and export the code. If you open the service from last semester, you might be able, if you're lucky, you might be able to export the code. I'm not even sure which one I use, but if I click here, oh no, okay. But what I was saying is that if I use the trial plan, if I use the trial plan and it expired, I won't be able to actually go in and open my service. I won't be able to, but I will have an option to download the code. Okay. How many chatbot should be submit? One chatbot? You do one chatbot. But I have multiples because, well, because number one, why do I have multiples here? It's because Mr. Cold is from your walkthrough, right? Mr. BMI is what we're doing today. Another one is that because, well, we had some excellent students from last semesters and I just wanted to take a peek at their work. I could just download and look at what people are doing. Why not? So, I mean, that way it will help me answer questions. Like, for example, if I'm going to know what people were doing. And another reason is that because sometimes you're asking, you need assistant, right? You need an assistant. And I take your JSON file and I import it here, right? Sometimes I'm unable to assist without actually looking at your JSON file. So that's why I have multiple copies of the service. So I can go ahead and import your JSON file. Well, the thing is, yeah, so there are multiple reasons, but you're gonna have one copy of the service and you're gonna submit one chatbot. Take your time and do excellent chatbot. Do your best. Because, well, I mean, trust me, it's gonna take a long time to develop. And no, I'm gonna tell you the truth. When I first did the Mr. BMI, it was not this much. It was the student asked a question to show how to read the number and do something with the number. That's what it was. It was an answer to student question. I just made the input two numbers and did something with those two numbers. That was it. There was nothing else in there. Then I started getting creative. So you build on it, okay? You just build on it, but you have to start early. Oh, and regular expressions. Okay. I put some documentation in here. Let me see. Oops, oops. Yes, expressions. It's in here. And this one. So there is no secret. There are no secrets here. Oops. Click here. Expressions. I think it's in here in this documentation. Expressions. Different expressions. Oh, this is dates. You would have to go through this documentation. Dates and then arrays. Like I know that a lot of people like to do with pizza stuff, right? So, well, this is complicated. I don't recommend getting in there, but in general, if you are asking for what topping, I could specify multiples, right? So that's what array is for. And see, there's a lot of, this is a documentation, okay? You would need to look at the documentation. That's where different expressions are and etc. Right? So this is just the JSON code, but the thing is about the JSON code is that if it has an error, it won't let you save it, right? So there are multiple ways to set the context. Remember, you can do it in JSON editor, right? Or you can just do the context, just specify, right? Well,
Hey, Anna, can I just try to answer that question
yes,
again, if you don't
yeah.
mind?
Go ahead.
Yeah. So expression. I mean, this is something where you want to take in any kind of input which has got some structure, right?
Yeah.
Like for example, a date or a name of a person, or anything that would come in with a certain structure and format. And you would want the chatbot to know that if you encounter such a format, then it's a date. Or if you encounter this set of strings in this
Yeah.
particular structure or format, then it's a name, right? So wherever you want to capture such different kinds of inputs, expressions come in very handy.
Mhm. Yeah, exactly. Like see here, it's also doing something with the numbers. Yeah. Well, you want to look at this, but please don't be, don't feel scared. You're not asked to use all of this. Okay. Just do what you can do. It's a lot of work. Yes. Yes, it is a work. I understand. I mean, I'll tell you the truth. I was a student too, but the only difference was that you're taking one course per semester, right? 6 credits. And for me, I was taking two per semester, two courses usually, 2 3 credits. So in GBST, right? I was taking a GBST course and also the iTech because they wanted to have the information technology background. So the difference between you and me was that I was taking two per semester, 2 3 credit courses, which is equivalent to the workload that you're doing in one 6 credit class. So trust me, I was there and I was a student also, and I still remember those days. And what I liked that, yes, it is a lot of work, but in the end, it is rewarding. You have something to celebrate. Okay, when the semester is over, you have something to celebrate because it's an accomplishment. Even a B is accomplishment. Oh yes, it's a lot of work. It takes a lot of work even to get a B. Trust me. So I'm not saying that it's not, but in few weeks from now, you're gonna be celebrating. It's a next milestone reached, right? So it's really rewarding, right? Well, yes, time constraints are crazy. That's right. But this is how it's gonna be at work too. Especially my current job. When I was hired, I had 1 week to learn the new applications. I was sitting with videos too, watching, trying to get as much as I could. So yes, when you get a new job, it's gonna be too. You're gonna be learning. There will be a lot of vocabulary, and even then, you're gonna be on multiple projects and change new tool, and you have to learn it again. It's like it's gonna be like this. So, I mean, don't worry about it. Yes, it sounds like it's crazy, but uh, okay. Always step back and look at what you accomplished in the past. You went through 640 course, right? Was it easy? No, you did it. Then why not? You can do the 652. And then when you go back to 670, you're gonna say how easy 650 was, trust me. Because that's how it is. What the hardest part is what you're doing now. So I mean I was in your position too, and Lanesh is this program graduate. So the only difference was that which course you actually take. Yeah. And of course, everybody was a time constraint. We were working too, working and the family, even if it's not kids, they got like parents, extended family, everything comes into place. So this is a nice part about the UMGC that you have an opportunity to work and do your school at the same time. You're not all day at school like in College Park, right? Campus. So it just makes it very rewarding and very interesting. So I mean, to see what exactly I mean, you would probably need to if you attend the well, I'm not sure if they're gonna do the graduation in person, but even if it's virtual, listen to the speech, listen to how people went through this. So it's not just you, it's everybody. So don't worry. I mean, yes, it's a lot, but in the end, it's really rewarding. So it's a moment of pain for the lifetime of gain. Let's say it this way, okay? That's what I say. So, I mean, it's rewarding. Think about it. Think about what you have done, and you can do it now. We have 1 week left, right? Or less. About 1 week. Right? So, right? There is never enough time. So, trust me. Anyone would like to add, Professor Ozan? Professor Ozan or Yelena or Linesh?
You covered it all, Elena. So nothing more to add. But very well done. Good session again.
Uh, oh, sure, yes. Yeah, I think it was the last session. Right. It's so sad that it was the last session, but well, I like doing it, and but well, all right. And Yelena still here? Is Yelena still here? All right.
Ozan is here.
Oh, Professor Ozan? Yeah, so
Yes.
anything you would like to say?
I was just checking the Yelena, the uh, the point, the how can I say, the problems that student had in the previous years, and when I compared to those our rubric, and I saw that some of the students did not use the system entitles. Some of them did not use context variables and slash to collect and store user inputs. And some of them did not use the handlers to allow switching topics during the conversation. So these are the three main points student lost points in the previous year submissions. So I recommend everyone to to use the rubric in the assignment, make sure that they deliver all the requirements of the assignment.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to read the requirements. Yeah.
I don't know if you would like to say anything about these 3 points, using the system entitlements, context variables, and the handlers.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Other than Yelena, thank you very much. It's a great session. And
Okay.
we have, 19 people participants right now. We have good amount of participants, really.
Yeah, that's excellent. Yes, yeah. And is Helena still here? Because it recorded on her account.
Oh, I'm on mute. Sorry. No, I'm here.
Yeah.
No,
So
that was great. I think everyone is tired, and I think thank you very much.
all right. Yeah.
All right.
And we move forward.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna stop sharing.
Okay. Good night,
Good
everyone.
evening, everyone.
Night.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.